Our life.
Exactly. That's what it is. I love it. Well, thank you, Ale, for joining me. I know that generally we are in separate substacks, so it's a special treat for us to be together and hopefully get through some real conversation. The way we've structured this today is more like a fireside chat, not quite the interview since we talk all the time. Pero bueno, definitely a lot of good topics to go over as it relates to the State of the Union address, which we heard yesterday. Although some friends have shared with me they thought it was more a State of the Gallery address because it seems that Trump spent more time highlighting folks in the gallery than actually talking about his policies. Uh, Perhaps because we know that he has very damaging policies. But we'll get into that. I am excited to see some folks starting to join in. We'll give them one more minute. But for those who are here for the first time, this is Latino Victory's Substack that we do every week. Today, I am here, Catherine Pichardo, President and CEO of Latino Victory, with my dear friend, our partnerships director, Adelis Ferro, who is also executive director of the Venezuelan American Caucus, which is a project of Latino Victory to uplift this community that has been so much a target of this administration and that needs a voice in this moment that we all find ourselves in. So thank you so much, Ade, for joining us for this real conversation on thoughts and next steps from the speech that we heard last night. And one thing for me, Ade, is most people didn't watch the State of the Union address. Folks are, for the most part, hearing bits and pieces from the news media today. So, for starters, tell me your thoughts, top lines on Trump's speech. And then also, what do you think people got out of it?
Well, first of all, it is a pleasure to be with you in the Latino Victory Substack space. And wow, yeah, I wouldn't blame anyone for not watching what happened last night for actually record time for a State of the Union speech. I think last night we heard a lot of big and false claims about the economy, immigration, and actually the direction of the country. But when you look at the numbers, at the data, I mean real data, the story is way much more darker and complicated for working Americans, for regular Americans, for people in this country. And I also will say that what he said many things, many lies, many things without making any sense. But also, there are several words that usually have been used in these State of the Union speeches by other presidents that he never mentioned, not even once. Constitution, that word was not mentioned. Um, Equality, rights, rule of law. And I know that it is easy for us not to uh, uh, um, realize that, but that tells a lot of what happened last night, and it is frightening. It is not surprising though, but I think besides and beyond some data that we have, that everything that happened last night, uh, it is, as you said, more about what is going to happen from now on, from today on, because I think that's a speech that we can easily forget because he actually didn't say anything, and the very few things that he said are all lies. But it is about what we're going to do. Midterms are around the corner already. We are on a quest not only to fight for our representation, for our leadership, but for our democracy. And I think that's the most important thing. No, don't you think?
For sure. And I think for the most part, folks are still confused about what all of what was said means. And so I do want to break it down a little bit. For starters, there were a number of Democrats that boycotted the speech who did not show up to the State of the Union. And what they cited was, frankly, they don't want to sit there and listen through Trump's lies. And certainly they felt it was more productive to speak to folks directly. And what we heard from Abigail Spanberger, who did the English response to the speech, as well as Senator Padilla, who did the Spanish response, was really a call to action, right? In terms of this is the moment that we find ourselves in, irrespective of what was said. Um, in prime time. By the way, the longest speech in American history, about 140 minutes, about an hour, 40 minutes. Um, it was really a call to action from folks on the Democratic side in the aftermath of the speech. So, do you have any thoughts in terms of the folks who boycotted? If not, we'll move on to the meat and potatoes.
No, you are totally right. And I think what the leadership in the Democratic side is doing is something that has to be done. We have to fight with every single weapon that the Constitution, the First Amendment, and our rights gives to us. And that's what they are doing. And I think also the ones that decided to attend and brought their guesses, like several of the Epstein victims that, by the way, were not recognized, were totally ignored by President Trump and by the Republicans. Uh, those are the things that has to happen in a democracy. We have we are not fighting with anything that is not under the law, under the Constitution, and or under especially the First Amendment of the Constitution that very conveniently the Republicans use and disregard whenever it is or not convenient. But I think we can start talking about what happened, what he said, and what is the reality. Because especially apparently a year and 2 months after he got in power, everything is still. He has the Senate, he has the Congress, he has the presidency, and still he's blaming Democrats and Joe Biden. And we can compare. We are now at the point that we can start comparing the numbers.
For sure. And that was one of the things that stood up to me. Trump seems to be caught up on the past. And you could see that, by the way, in the fact that he still talks about an election he lost 5 years ago, by all accounts. But in his mind, he's still talking about voter fraud and the fact that he thinks that he should have won that election, right? What we all call the big lie. And so, certainly, throughout the speech, we saw other snippets where not only he blames Democrats, but he also blames the Biden administration for the state of affairs in our country today. The fact is, he's been in office for over a year now. He owns this economy. He owns Congress. He owns the court systems in some ways, right? Because he's appointed a lot of the federal judges that are drawing down decisions on some of his own policies. And the fact, by the way, that he suffered a tremendous loss in the Supreme Court last week, you saw he's still smarting from it. He did not quite call out the Supreme Court because, again, he perhaps wanted to stay on script and not point out the fact that his administration, to many, is starting to look as an authoritarian regime. But he did point out to the unfortunate decision by the Supreme Court, even as the justices were sitting in front of him. So there's a lot here for us to make. Um, uh, Real assessments on where Trump is mentally and emotionally. And I think for me, he feels cornered. He sees polls time and time again come back with the lowest approval ratings that he's seen, and by the way, that presidents have seen throughout history in this country. He sees the upcoming midterm elections as a real um, r- uh, a space where he has to prove that his policies are working. And the fact is that in every election that you've seen, even yesterday, right, in Maine and Pennsylvania, where Democrats won, but throughout the past year, where Democrats have kept on winning elections, you've seen that the Trump administration is really struggling to deal with the facts and what everyday Americans are feeling. He's talking about a great economy, but that's not really what folks see. He says no inflation, but people are feeling prices going up, from healthcare to gas to groceries and education and housing. So the fact is that that people are not fooled, right? They see the great grift. And so, yes, let's talk about the economy. Trump claims the economy is roaring like never before, that more Americans are working than ever in history. And these are all quotes, by the way. 100% of new jobs are in the private sector. Inflation is plummeting. The stock market records he talked about. He promised economic prosperity, but yet we've seen job growth slow dramatically to only about 181,000 jobs gained in 2025, which is the worst non-pandemic year. We see that most gains came from healthcare, not broad economic strength, and we see that inflation still rising. Are they? Do people know what's going on, or do they believe Trump's lies?
Oh, people know what's going on. That's the reason he got those numbers. And I want to say something really quick about the big lie that he again talked about last night. And something that still resonates in my head that he said. He talked about voting as a privilege that the government gives to us. And that's one of the biggest lies of the night. That voting is our right, is not a privilege. It's a right. And I think people has to understand that because they are not giving us anything. Democracy is ours. We have to defend it through our vote, among other things. But that's a right. And that attempt of making us believe that is something he can take from us, there is not such a thing. And coming from a country where I know what that means, I have to emphasize that. Having said that, he said another thing talking about people don't knowing what is going on with the economy. He said that the retirement savings account, he announced he's going to open this new project of retirement savings accounts, and he announced it last night. It's already a law. It was signed by Joe Biden in 2022. It was part of the funding bill that Congress passed in 2022. That already exists. It is insane, but he truly believed what he said in some interviews years ago that
Oh, he definitely drinks his own Kool-Aid.
yeah, and he said, and no, I remember that he said, I don't know if it was to these Hollywood people or whatever. He said, no, you have to lie to them because they're gonna believe you. And when you see coffee is 20% up, beef is 16.4% off, fish 8.2. Energy bills are up all over the country. 8.6 million Americans are working multiple jobs. Affordability, the word that he made fun of it and did it again last night, it is a real everyday concern for you, for me, for all of you that are what, because we are regular people. We are not billionaires. The people that he's pretending to cut even more taxes now. I mean, we are in a crisis. And no matter how many times he and all of his entourage says the opposite in the media, we are going to the supermarket. We have to pay the bills. We have to receive the bills in the mail every time we get those envelopes. And the stress is real. The struggle is more real than ever. And I think that's the force that is driving people to the polls right now. We are seeing what is happening in Texas with this primary election, never seen before. It is really extraordinary what is happening with people going to vote in a primary election. That's a measure in Texas of how desperate we are. And it's not an exaggeration.
For sure. And, I think in many ways, in Trump's speech yesterday, he tried to address affordability without saying affordability. He did make fun of the word and labeled it a democratic hoax, but the fact is people connect with it, right? And did talk about lowering of prices and energy and prescription drugs and housing. But frankly, for me, listening to the entire hour and 40 minutes, all of that got watered down. And what I really heard was him doubling down on some of the policies that he feels are appealing to his base, specifically immigration. He did not mention ICE because he knows that's a weak spot for him with everyday Americans. But he talked about continuing to target our communities for immigration enforcement. He continued to demonize immigrants in a way that, frankly, is unfair and unwarranted, without mentioning the fact that immigrants have some of the lowest crime rates in this country. He talked about LGBTQ plus and transgender rights. He talked about um, women's reproductive freedoms. He talked about a lot of the buzz wedge issues that appeal to his base without necessarily being completely out front, but certainly triggering those emotions that get people riled up. Any thoughts on that, Ale?
He talked about this man that killed. I am trying to remember her name. I don't want to be disrespectful, but he was talking about an immigrant that crossed the border and killed. I think it was the sister of someone that was on the floor yesterday. So sorry, I don't remember her name, but I know this. This person who killed this innocent woman, he's not an immigrant. He was born in the United States. He's an American citizen. And twisting all of these facts just to make a point against immigrants is not only horrendous, but is something that is evil, because what is trying to create and feed again is the hate, is racism, is xenophobia, without even having the facts, the real facts, and saying the real facts, even in front of the family of this innocent woman. And the truth, the real truth is that, and it's not only one poll, several polls already shown that 60% of Americans say the administration is overdoing the attacks on the immigrants. And as Governor Spanberger said last night, the truth is that this country has a real problem with the immigration system. The immigration system is destroyed, is broken, and the way to fix it is to working on laws that modernize and make it efficient and real, not destroying communities, separating families, killing people, including American citizens, and destroying the economy as a consequence of all of that. Because something that people probably don't understand either is that every single attack that they are doing on immigrants community, which are no other thing that working communities, are affecting the economy of all the cities where they are doing this. Immigrants are terrorized. Many of them are not showing to work, and that's another reason for going up. Prices going up, and it is another piece of all of this nonsensical. Uh, uh, well, actually, all of this was on Project 2025. And at certain point, we tried to warn for months the American people, but right now we are actually living every single part of Project 2025. And when it comes to immigration, and especially to the Latino community and the African communities and the Middle East communities, uh, it is painful, cruel, inhumane, but it's also our call, the five alarm call for all of you that are watching this video and this live. It is our time to raise our voices pacifically but strongly, and to get ready to vote. Because the only way we can stop all of this is having people in Congress who we can demand to do the right thing, and and to move forward with all of us, not separating us, not polarizing us even more, but uniting us in front of the future. And I know it sounds like a dream, but it's not. That's the only way it's going to work, believe me.
Thank you for raising that, Ale, because again, as I mentioned earlier, the fact is that in the Democratic response, what you saw last night was really a call to action, right? Yes, we got through the hour and 40 minutes of a speech where we really didn't get a lot of policy. What we got was a lot of false information, misinformation, and really. An opportunity for the president to highlight folks who he felt sent a message to his base on, I'm still here for you. These are still the issues that matter. And no matter the noise around the economy, we're going to prevail. And we haven't really seen that pan out in recent elections. As we mentioned, just a few other numbers on the economy, affordability, and costs. Americans paid an average over $2,000 extra in 2025 in their um, costs for living as a result of inflation, and specifically the Trump tariffs, which, as we all know, are extremely problematic and even have been voted down by the Supreme Court. As late as last week. In healthcare, Trump doubled healthcare costs for over 20 million Americans. As it relates to housing, affordability, rent is higher than ever for the average American, both buying as well as renting. And then certainly you talked a little bit about the ICE and CBP policies as it relates to what initially they said they would do, which was securing the border and deporting criminals. But as we know, that's not really what's happened in our communities. ICE is terrorizing communities, including disapprove of the job that ICE is doing. But then we've also seen corruption like we've never seen before in the United States of America. And as someone who comes from another country, many of our folks on this Substack were born somewhere else. I know you were as well, Ali. This is not something that we expected to see outside of a third world country. The grift that we're seeing, right? While the oligarchy continues to get richer, Trump's own family continues to get richer and richer off the presidency. The average American is paying the price. And the fact is that this is information that we need to get out there. We need to make sure that the American public is clear on the facts. But that is not enough to get them out to vote and to make a change. And so that is the work that organizations like Latino Victory are doing in terms of making sure that we are uplifting amazing, fearless candidates up and down the ballot that can run for public office to represent our communities with dignity. And Additionally, we're encouraging folks to participate at every level of civic life. So, if you're eligible to register to vote, please do register. If you're eligible to vote, please do come out, get informed on the issues, whether it's economic opportunity or safety in our communities or building a planet that can be there for our kids and our grandkids and the future generations. Those are the issues that really matter. Those kitchen table issues that will get folks um, engaged in a real way to build a future for our country. Are there any final words? I know we're running into time that you'd like to share with folks listening today. Any final thoughts on the State of the Union last night?
I think what we are being told last night definitely doesn't match what many Americans are living. And I say many because obviously there are billionaires here that will say something totally different because they're having the best time of their lives. And I think what families are experiencing are not talking points. And it's not something that is ethereal. It's real. It's something that they have to face every single day in their kitchens, in their houses, looking for other jobs to have two, three jobs like never before. And the economic pressure is what is driving our lives right now. And in moments like this, facts matter. One last thing that I want to say that he's talked about last night was that $18 trillion investments, even his own data on his own website talk about 9 trillion. And I doubt that is that number, that the 9 trillion is real too. But he talked about 18 trillion. That's why just one uh, uh, um, evidence of every single that the fact that every single thing that he said is a lie uh, was exponentially bigger last night. So iwillvote.com is a website that you can check right now after we finish. And there they direct you to your state, to everything that you need to register to vote, to check your registration. And it is in different languages. So if you have friends, family, coworkers, neighbors, talk to them. What we are asking you is go and vote against anything that damage your life, your family, your community, your healthcare, your rights.
Thank you, Ade. And certainly, folks can get additional information at latinovictory.org. We're a national organization that builds Latino political power so that our voices and values can be reflected in the policies that move our country forward. So, thank you for joining us once again. Certainly, go on our website and get more information about the candidates we support and the civic engagement work that we're doing, as well as get information on how you contribute to this effort. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye bye.
Which we need a lot more than ever before.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye
Take
bye.
care. Bye bye.